How's it going, ladies and bruises up? I'll be Sixkilla, welcome back to the letter. We are still Ashton, and we will be for some time, so there's no point mentioning that anymore, really, I don't think. As you can see, where are we on Ashton's timeline? Oh, we've covered quite a bit of distance now. Shit. Okay, we're up here. But we are heading to the... We're heading to the precinct because we just heard about Zach. So, this is not going to be nice. Driving off with my body on autopilot, mind in a daze and afraid. Utterly afraid. At this time, I've permanently lost someone in my life. The whole precinct is in an uproar. Officers move in and out of the main work hall with rapid steps. Phones blare loudly from the comms room. All calls have been made from the dispatch area. The rest who have been left standing watch the whole commotion with a nervous energy. From further back, the chief's voice booms above the uproar. I'm not even shocked. He may appear like the bumbling fool on first glance, but he's kept the city safe for years. For something to happen in his jurisdiction, inside his own precinct, right under his nose, he has the right to be royally pissed.
What do you mean you don't know? Don't give me that shite, Sergeant! How can one person, slip past you? You can't even keep an eye on one man!
His statement gives me pause. Am I wrong? Did Zach escape somehow? I'm not condoning it, neither do I believe Zach's capable of doing, let alone thinking of it. But if that's what happened, I'd be equally as cross as the chief. This won't help his case. This will only complicate things with Wright and put both of us in a tight spot. I won't be able to help him once the red tape prevents me from doing so. Yet a hint of relief still washes over me as I walk closer to my boss, mentally preparing myself for whatever reprimand he's about to dish out.
What's happening, Chief?
Except he merely glances at me with an inscrutable expression. Although, if I'm going to read deeper into it, I'd say it's the closest expression he can get to shooting me a pitying look. For the first time in my years on the force, I find myself wishing to hear a reprimand from him. Whatever the stare means, it can't be good. Coupled with Officer Reens's tone this morning, it does nothing to calm the uneasy feeling in me. Fuck, boss even seems relieved to see me. After the last few exchanges we've had over the past 2 weeks, you'd think the man doesn't want to see me right now.
About time you got in here.
I got caught up in something. Sorry, Chief. What's going on? Is there a problem with Zach?
He hesitates for a second before his frown eases into a long, dragged-out exhale.
I'm not sure if you can call this a problem, Frey, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Follow me. And you, I want your full report about this by the end of the day. It better be good or you are kissing that badge goodbye.
The officer he's addressing, the sergeant, a man in his late 20s to 30s who transferred here last year, shrinks back in his chair. I don't quite remember his name. I've only seen him a number of times since I'm off and out of the precinct. But if my memory serves me right, he's the guy currently assigned to late night shift, at least until this month ends. Depending on how bad this is, he'll either be given a verbal warning, a suspension, or a dismissal. It's not a position I envy him for being in right now, although there's really not much time left to feel sorry for him either. As soon as Chief's done roasting the other officers behind the guy, he gestures for me to follow. Straight toward the precinct's holding cells. As if it's a switch that has been turned off, the moment he steps away from the small crowd, the entire main lobby goes silent. For one reason or another, it feels like everyone's simply waiting for the metaphorical hammer to fall. Even their stares, before we turn to an adjacent hallway, exude the same pitying vibe as the Chief. All of which I might have easily ignored any other day. People here can be a bunch of gossip mongers. It's only the significant glance the Chief throws my way before pushing the door open that stops me. Not that there's even a need to mull over it, because the moment he swings it open, it strikes me. A sharp, dry, metallic scent. I've already grown familiar to it over the years. It's another one of those things you get used to once you start handling the homicide cases. It's blood, yeah. Now just a whiff of it tells me it's enough to gauge the severity of the situation. This isn't the festering smell you get when someone in the room has a flesh wound. It lingers far too much in the air, hangs far too heavily even where I stand. No. This is what you get when someone has spilled blood all over the room. This is what you get when there's a large pool of it. This is what you get when no one bothers to clean up for a few hours because forensic work isn't done yet. This is what you get when there's most certainly a dead body somewhere. I don't want to think of the who yet. There are simply too many possibilities. Too many variables unaccounted for here to form a single conclusion. Really? You think so? I think there's one possibility. However, When the Chief of Luxbourne Police refuses to provide answers, a chill easily fills every nerve in my body. Almost in a trance, I follow after him without asking anything or saying another word. For the first time in years, I feel like a damn rookie again. Fresh out of training, newly instated, and still on my first homicide case. Except, I didn't balk at the idea of seeing a dead body then. Now, as light flashes fleetingly from the far end of the hall, while CSI documents the scene and forensics team gather evidence, the only thing my instinct tells me is to run. As far from here as possible, as if I don't have 10 years of detective work under my belt. It echoes inside my head like a mantra.
It's because you didn't listen.
It's all your fault. Why won't you believe me?
Over and over, rising and ebbing, a tidal wave of thoughts and murmurs, surging and crashing against my ear, more deafening than the drum of my heartbeats and shallow gasps. Churning and heaving, till the cell finally comes into view and I'm afforded a clearer look of what's inside. The whole world stands still. In one single moment, every noise, every smell, every person in the room all ceases to matter. The second my eyes land on this prone form, there is only red. Red, red, red. Blood everywhere on the floor, where a copious amount of it is pooled, on the walls, smeared on every crack and tile his hands can reach. His face and shoulders dripping from every gash and tear, flowing from the hollow gap where his eyes should have been.
The custodial officer found him when they brought in breakfast. It was too late. He was already dead by that time. Some 3 to 4 hours, according to the blokes from forensics.
There had been a struggle, based alone on the smear pattern left on the bars and floor, but only so much as this small cell will allow him. You can already imagine how it went down. He was likely left with no other choice, cornered like an animal at the mercy of his killer. In this cell, there would have been no escape. The only thing he would have been able to do is shout for help. Perhaps the same plea written on floor closest to him. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help that he didn't even get. And it calls for a whole lot of questions. Not the hows. Logic has already flown out the window from the start. She is the means to get to us. Get to all of us. Bars and walls notwithstanding. The whys, though.
No one? No one heard him? Not even one from the guys on duty last night?
Because Zach's not an idiot. He would have asked for help. He would have yelled.
Oh, one of them did, but thought nothing of it.
Then why didn't they do anything? He's just a room away!
They must have assumed your friend's just asking for attention. Henry wasn't clear on the details when I questioned him about it. You've been serving in this precinct for more than a decade, though. You should be aware by now how rowdy the folks we detain here can become. But that's not the only problem we have here. Someone got in and out of this place without anyone noticing. Even the surveillance footage is a bust. Tech's going over it now, but I don't think we'll get anything from it. The media will have a field day when they learn of this, Frey. Keep it mum for now. I'll let you know because he's your... well, you deserve to know. The poor bloke's your friend, after all. I just don't want the commissioner hearing of this before I can tell him anything. Or at least, until we've figured out how the butcher got in.
You think this is an inside job?
What else can it be? It's either that or we have a damn good criminal mastermind walking this city.
Maybe someone that can just move through walls, perhaps. Really, I want to say something. I want to tell him this isn't what he's thinking. That all this time, the Anselm Butcher never existed. This is a curse the people of the city have been laughing up for centuries. The way things are going, we'll simply find ourselves at a dead end. Chances are, they'll just have to find an innocent chap to blame for everything, like what Wright did to Zach. A scapegoat for things they can't explain. But how am I supposed to tell anyone, let alone get them to believe my words? I'll sound like an idiot. They'll likely brush me off the same way I've done with Isabella's warnings. In the end, clenching my fist at my sides and gritting my teeth is all I'm able to do. Zach's lifeless face stares back at me, and accusations in them, sharp and searing. An expression that etches itself deep within my mind, once the first officer waves us both out of the room. Another ghastly image I'll never be able to forget. Another memory I will probably haunt me until my last dying breath. Another regret. Chief dismisses me barely an hour later, sending me off with nothing but a light pat and another sorry expression. I'm not entirely sure if that's supposed to be reassuring. There's plenty more to do. A lot of people to call and tell, and all of it falls on me. No matter how awful the news I bring will be, it's better this come from a person his family and friends know. Still, my body refuses any notion of movement. The thought of telling Rebecca and Isabella about this, it will upset both of them. I don't even want to imagine what his grandparents will say. They're good, kind, warm-hearted people who have given me another family even without me asking for it. They welcomed me, invited me every time, easily reminded me of what having a whole home feels like. I thought I'd already forgotten it. Zach's older sister will definitely show up in my apartment though, ring my doorbell and punch me as soon as I open the door, just like the last time. She's right. I'm the kind of person who brings nothing but trouble. She's known all along that Zach should have stopped hanging out with me. Warned him several times. Zach's often laughed her concerns off. I used to think it's because he enjoys the friendship as much as I do, despite a huge part of it going unspoken between us throughout the years. Now he's dead. I thought I had more time. I thought he'd be safe. I acted too late. And in the deafening silence of my car, the only thing I'm able to do is close my eyes, rest my forehead against the cold surface of the steering wheel and scream. Scream until my throat bleeds raw. Scream until my lungs burn out. Scream until all that remains are the guilt and the tears. The sun hangs low when I drive back to the pub and drag myself inside, still too unsure how to break the news. Around this time, the patrons usually start to trickle into the main lounge until it reaches a peak around midnight. Today, however, it remains thin. But considering what the day is, it isn't too worrisome for the kind of business G runs. He's always complained about the lack of a decent crowd on week start, though he doesn't really begrudge his customers for it. No one wants to start the week with a bad case of a hangover after all, even him, which makes the concerned look he gives me come off a bit too odd. With the kind of danger we're in, and after what happened to Zach, this swiftly puts me on edge, even before I can fully process and analyze the scene in front of me.
Something wrong, G?
G hums, but there's an undertone of annoyance in it, despite his casual and open movements. And only after he finishes wiping a tumbler and carefully settles it face down on the table does he give me an answer. The way he stares back at me honestly makes me squirm. It feels like I'm being stared down by my primary school teacher for sleeping in class again.
Nothing much. Monday's still a slow day for this place. But you might want to check on your friends, kid. Looks like one of them woke up on the wrong side of the bed while you were out.
Have to be Rebecca then. Another question forms in my head along with a small confused frown. Though before a single syllable passes my mouth, Rebecca's irate voice rings out in some part of the main lounge. Called it. From the sound of it, it appears woke up on the wrong side of the bed is a complete understatement.
Alone? You know we can't just go in there. Why did you think Ash stopped me yesterday?
But we don't have any other choice, Becca! There's really no other way! We have to go there! If you'll just...
Isabella? No.
It doesn't sound too comforting. Once Rebecca assumes that kind of tone in an argument with Isabella, it usually ends with one of them walking out, or both giving the other the silent treatment. It lasts for about a week at most if it's really bad, which really isn't what we need right now. It could be dead in a week. I hope the bad blood from this morning would simply blow over after all of us has gotten a decent rest. Turns out sleep isn't just what some of us need. Even G appears to understand it. In spite of the efforts to look as unconcerned as possible, there's a tense set on his shoulders. A nervous edge lingers in his eyes, as it occasionally flickers over to where Rebecca and Isabella's voices are coming from. He doesn't want to deal with this, especially at the start of another busy week. Neither do I. Things have worked out well between them before, without Zach or I meddling. But the imploring gaze G directs at me leaves me with no other choice. It almost feels like he's guilting me into doing something about it. I hate that it's working.
You know how I run this pub, kid. No fist fights, no cat fights, only good booze, bad puns, and off-key singing. Go fix it before it blows up in your faces. I'd hate to throw two girls out of this place over a petty argument.
It's probably not as petty if Rebecca's already shouting like that, but I give him a nod nevertheless.
Sorry about this, G.
He hums something under his breath for an answer and waves me off, turning away and returning to his work without another word. Even with the lack of a sizable crowd, he likes to keep busy. We're the same in that regard. Can't remain still, always has to stay moving, doing something, thinking, whatever keeps the brain at work. I'll leave him to it shortly after. Rebecca's voice rings out again, followed by Isabella's. But part of me wants to thank him for all the trouble he's taken for people he barely even knows. Once this is over, I should probably find some way. In the meantime, I have this immediate problem to fix. Gotta get to this before it turns into a shitstorm both of them will regret. And I know both of them will. For all of Isabella's complaints about Rebecca's bossy attitude, or how annoying Rebecca sometimes finds the other's childlike demeanor, it's a friendship they both cherish in their own way. Rebecca's already on her feet when I spot them in an almost deserted area of the pub. I'm willing to bet my entire life savings that people are staying away only because of the brewing storm. Rebecca can have quite the mood when she's crossed. You think we haven't noticed that? I can't speak for Isabella. I rarely ever see her seething, but from what I've seen yesterday, I don't think I'm gonna be at the messy end of it. The way she's glaring at the redhead from her seat, regardless of how much the other woman towers over her right now, already says everything. Empty plates have been left neatly piled at one corner of the table they occupy, a conversation that turns sour sometime after late lunch, then. Good thing they're already done and nothing's left to be spilled. Because in the next moment, before I can approach and intervene, Rebecca slams her palms on the table. It sends the silverware clinking sharply against the surface. Isabella flinches momentarily, we both do, though she shows no indication of surrendering in the face of Rebecca's temper. Everything escalates from there.
You've already gotten us in enough trouble because of this letter ghost everything.
Can Becca stop blaming everyone all the time? It's fucking irritating.
You're blaming me again!
And you can't expect everyone to fix your mess.
You keep on putting the blame on me, but you're the one who didn't listen. All of you! If you just listened in the first place, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
She's not wrong.
But you're too busy acting like you know what's best for everyone, when in fact you're the one who's being selfish.
I'm the one who's selfish, yet you're still going to do what you want anyway, even if the people around you are already beside themselves with worry. This is how you've always acted since we met, and I'm tired of it. Sometimes I wish you never even came here, because all you've given us is a headache.
You know why I had to come here. My dad!
Your dad has nothing to do with this. It has always been you and your whiny, careless self that has always been the problem.
Maybe I should have stepped in earlier. Maybe I should have said something the moment Rebecca had slammed the flat of her hand on the table, or the second I've entered the area. Either way, it's too late to act. Harsh words have already been hurled between the two. Words more cutting than any blade, each and every one of it digging a wound too deep into the person they've been aimed at. For a long time, Isabella sits there in silence while Rebecca stands unmoving, arms crossed and breathing heavy. Despite the lack of words between them, they're both vibrating with anger, refusing to meet the other's eyes. Ever so slowly, the atmosphere in the room turns thick and smothering. A strained air no one in the immediate vicinity, including me, dares to break, until the ones at the centre does so. Rebecca definitely won't. At some point in our friendship, she's grown to become a woman firm with her opinions. She's never going to back down from this. Not when she knows she has a point. She doesn't have a point. She's a fucking idiot. Isabella, on the other hand, there's been a certain stubbornness in her. As frustrating as it is to see sometimes, it's what's gotten her through life's hardships. Perhaps even the only thing that has. When you have nothing else, people tend to cling on to what they have within themselves instead. And she already knows when to withdraw. When a struggle turns useless, a kind of awareness almost second nature to her. When enough is enough, Isabella abruptly stands and marches toward the exit in fast, rigid steps, away from the hurt and painful words they let fly earlier. She bumps into me in her haste, the impact nearly knocking her off her feet. Instinct kicks in at the last moment and I reach out for her, grabbing her arm in a steady grip. Surprise flits across her face, an expression mirrored by Rebecca's behind her. Neither of them have noticed me. However, that doesn't mean I won't have things to say about this. Of course I'm going to take Isabella's side. It'd be insane to agree with Rebecca.
You okay?
Rather than answer, once her shock subsides, she merely averts her gaze and hastily wipes the tears off her cheeks. Like she's only noticed them in that moment, and without another word or even meeting my eyes again, she gently brushes away my hand and runs off, leaving an awkward hush in her wake. Rebecca soon slumps on the chair that Isabella has just left, gingerly reaching up to press the bridge of her nose and breathe out a ragged exhale. Arguments like this have drained both her patience and energy, usually more than her rowdy students do, despite being no stranger to it. It's no excuse for her to say those things though, and my disapproval must be clear enough on my face. When she finally glances back at me, her exhaustion immediately shifts back to annoyance, her mouth curving into a tight frown. I cross my arms in response, waiting, a reaction verging on instinctive in the face of her irritation. Regardless of my opinions about this, I don't say anything yet, not until she's the one willing to talk. Another minute passes while we stare each other down, but eventually she breathes out again and relaxes her rigid posture.
What do you want, Ash? If you have something to say, just tell me, or I'm going back upstairs.
Did you really have to say it like that?
Well, how do you want me to answer her? Do you want me to just let her go there and do what she wants? I know you won't be too happy if I did that.
That's a low blow, Rebecca. Even for you. We all know she wasn't even planning on staying here this long. There was no need to bring it up if all you wanted to do is stop her.
Did you even see how she's acting? She's not a child anymore. Even my students can do better.
Becca, she'll listen if you'll just ask her properly. I know you mean well and you do have a point. But please be a little more thoughtful next time. Go think about it for a while.
By some miracle, the whole discussion ends right there. Rebecca elects to stay silent. Or at least, it's how it seems when a minute or two passes and she says nothing. A rare occurrence, when she almost always has something on her mind. Only an uneasy atmosphere hangs in the air when I finally decide to remove myself from the room. She doesn't stop me. Instead, something inexplicable flickers momentarily in her eyes. One that quickly disappears, until only a vague notion of it remains in memory. But in that one exchange I've caught a short, clear glimpse of what has shifted, of what's inevitable. So much has changed throughout the years. We will never be the same person we once were. And if it's for the better, we've yet to know. A lull has descended in the main lounge once I return. G's nowhere to be seen. People continue to trickle out instead of in, and by the time I get back, only 2 tables remain occupied. Soon these people too will be gone, and the whole place will be devoid of anyone. Frankly, its current state already lends the place an entirely different vibe. Along with the soothing strum of strings and the steady beat of drums playing overhead, there's a calming sense to this. A far cry from the times I've been here before, and perhaps it's for this reason why Isabella has chosen this place to retreat. She sits quietly in the furthest corner of the room, in one of the tables set right beside the windows. She usually keeps the curtains close around this hour, but the small portion of it has been pulled back, revealing the busy streets outside. The late afternoon light spills right through it, outlining her small form and pooling on the surface of the table, where both her arms rest. In her hands, she flips a folded piece of paper, turning it from one side to the other without any purpose. The letter. A small frown creases her forehead while she stares at it, yet there is something oddly tranquil in the picture she has unknowingly painted. Something I can't bring myself to disturb, if only for a few seconds. It's one of those moments again. The rare ones, the ones where she's too still, too quiet, a complete opposite of her usual self, but it's these that often leave a mark. Not her cheery disposition or her lively attitude, but these short few seconds of wordless silence, where the softest sighs and slightest movements sing louder. The smallest minuscule things that tell you about the person and their strength more than any words can express. It's these that carve a vivid memory no matter how brief it lasts. She glares at me annoyed, and just like that, all of it melts away. Gone is the stillness, replaced quickly by the teasing and friendly jibes. Back again to what we used to. What's easy, what's familiar, where every truth we hope to convey regrettably goes unsaid between us.
You're going to destroy an important piece of evidence if you keep doing that, Belle.
But she's far from angry. A bit upset, maybe. Who wouldn't be? I do agree with Rebecca. Her words still hit below the belt. While I do agree with Rebecca? Why would you agree with Rebecca? I don't understand. It's not her fault for picking up a piece of paper and looking at it. You can't blame someone for that. You can't say, geez, shouldn't you know that if you pick up a piece of paper and look at it, that you might get us cursed and have everybody have their eyes gouged out by a ghost lady? I mean, that's not something that is normal, right? Regardless, Isabella doesn't seem like she'll start shouting at me, at least compared to every other person I've aggravated, intentional or otherwise. Some light talk must just do the trick and coax her out of this mood.
Come on. If you keep staring at the table like that, you're going to bore a hole on it. I really don't want to OG a new table. He'll pick the most expensive one and leave me begging on the streets.
She levels a quick glance at me, her expression dry and impassive enough to drain every colour out of the room. It's as if I just told her a terrible joke and she's expecting there to be more of it. Really now. She needs to give me more credit than that. My jokes are funny when I want them to be.
And I really don't care. I'd even take pictures and post them online. Go away, Ash. I don't want to talk right now.
Yet it sounds half-hearted at best. Like what's happening has already sapped every bit of energy in her, and all that's left are the words. Pretty soon those too will lose their meaning and leave a hollow shell in their wake. It's already unusual to see her like this. Everything has already gone to shit. I'd like at least this one thing to stay normal. So somehow we managed to continue for the better half of of the hour, talking, joking, with their short, feeble responses and banter that never goes anywhere. But it's enough. In the grand scheme of things, amidst the chaos and death shadowing over us, it's these little inconsequential moments that matter. We still haven't told them about Zach either. It's her smile, her laughter, when it finally rings, easy and free of her burdens.
Okay, I have another one.
I don't want to hear it, Ashton. Go away.
No, really, listen. I know someone who talks like an owl.
Will you leave me alone if I bite and ask who?
A pause. And then she frowns as realization slowly dawns on her. Confusion flashes fleetingly across her face before eventually settling on a grimace.
Oh.
Suddenly, she hugs her arms closer to herself and looks away, perhaps in her best attempt to stay angry. But to no avail. In a matter of seconds, her shoulders shake with laughter as she's trying to contain.
You're awful, and I really hate you. Just leave.
It's contagious, her mirth. Soon I'm joining her in it, briefly forgetting every problem that has piled up and continues to weigh down on us, laughing without reservation or care, until only a familiar warmth lingers once both our amusement ebbs away. Somehow with her, these things have always come easy.
Feeling better?
A little. You're still lame.
But you're laughing right now.
Only because your humor is terrible.
She's not wrong, it is terrible.
Right. Keep telling yourself that. I know it's funny.
Gonna make a great dad one too.
And you know what? If you've kept frowning like that, your face might have cracked. That would have been really messy and ugly.
If glares can kill, with the one she sends my way, I'd probably be dead by now. Seeing it directed my way, it only takes a few quick seconds for me to realize how she might have also taken my statement. How wrong and rude it might have sounded in her ears, however unintentional it is. I've never been good with words, but that's never an acceptable excuse, is it? Suddenly, taking the brunt of her anger seems less complicated than correcting or explaining myself. Nevertheless, I try.
What? Crap. Damn it, that was so not what I meant. I was just saying you look better when you're smiling.
Her glare doesn't even wane. In fact, I think it intensified, like the brewing storm. In the face of it, under the sharpness of her stare and her annoyance, I do what any person with a good sense of self-preservation does. Run away. Keep my mouth shut and shift my attention elsewhere. The crowd outside looks very interesting today. Maybe I should...
Thanks, Ash.
She utters all of it in a voice too small, too quiet, but when I turn to her, only those words, her gratitude, resonate throughout the whole room. Not the soft clinking of silverware somewhere, nor the last strains of music fading into silence above us. Instead, it's the meaning behind her gaze as she holds mine that lingers. Steady, unflinching and open in the same way that she looked at me all those years ago, with bright eyes and an expression softening into a tender smile. I didn't understand it then. How easy it is for her to wear her heart on her sleeve. How she never shies away from expressing herself even among people she barely knows. How she can go through everything without losing herself. Now it's among the hundreds, the thousands that hang unspoken between us. Trivial little things with worth still too big to put into words. Either because it's too early or because there was never really a proper time. For now though, this'll do. Until the moment itself dwindles. Until reality pulls us back in, reminding us of the things we've set aside in its favor.
Isabella, about what happened with Rebecca earlier.
I should probably apologize to Becca. I know she only means well. And I said some really bad things.
The corners of her mouth quirks up, almost as if she's too ashamed of the things she said.
Don't worry, she can be pretty stubborn, but she'll listen. Especially to you.
You think?
Because Zach won't be with us anymore.
That was random. You're one of the few people she likes?
She won't stay angry for long. I can vouch for it.
She has a point, though. Isabella freezes in an instant. The pleasant air around us dissipates. She shifts her attention back to her hands again, both clenched so tightly that her knuckles visibly pale.
I know, Ash. I just thought we'd find something in there. That if I go back, we'll get the answers we need. I found the letter there, so maybe, right?
It's not that I don't agree with her. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. But Rebecca also has a point, and I will always agree with, no matter how desperate I am. It's not going to be a simple walk in the park. Who knows what we might find there? If she comes with me, I won't be able to guarantee her safety. She'll be in even greater danger. Hence, alone. If there's a need to go back to that accursed place, I'm doing it on my own. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority, and I'm not about to drag them in there with me. So I tell her as much, despite the determination and desperation in her eyes. Anything to keep her safe. It's dangerous?
Forget it, Belle. You're not going back to that mansion.
But Ash, what about...
This isn't up for debate. Do you really think they'll just let you in? Do you really think they'll give a damn if you walk in there carrying that stupid letter of all things?
No, but there has to be something we can tell them. Ash, they were with me during the open house. They have to know. They're in as much trouble as we are. They're living in that place.
I agree with her. I think we should let her go too. Yeah, it's dangerous, but so is doing nothing. The ghost lady's gonna rip her eyes out and kill her anyway, so fuck, she might as well.
That ghost woman came from there. Both her and the letter. Something's in that house, Ash. And whatever it hides might be the only thing that'll get us out of this mess.
Alright, suppose you do find an answer there. What happens? Let's say that by some dumb luck, you got inside and found something. I don't even have to bring up what they did to Zach. In fact, what they'll do to you is the least of our problems. What if you see her again? What if she goes after you? What are you going to do?
We haven't told her about Zach.
It's not like we have any other choice. Besides, I'm pretty sure you've already thought of the same thing. Admit it.
It's true.
That doesn't mean I'm going to let you run straight into trouble. What you're planning to do is risky. For you. Give it up, Isabella. Zach's already gone! And if you...
Realization comes way too late and my throat closes up as soon as I realize what just slipped out of my mouth. It was supposed to be a speech, damn it. Words carefully picked to ease people into the idea, especially her, who has always seen Zach as that decent older brother that she never had, as family. The way her expression shifts from terror to disbelief then to anguish makes the horrible lump in my throat feel more unpleasant. There's a sorrow in it, palpable enough, as the meaning of what I said sinks in, a pain I can't even hope to understand, one that we'll all deal with in our own ways. I can't even bring myself to look her straight in the eye. Unexpectedly, Isabella merely clams up, no resistance, no further arguments like I've come to expect from her. She doesn't even shed a single tear. Uncharacteristic. Just a silence that stretches far too thin, till the air in the whole room grows awkward and suffocating. A standstill that'll get us nowhere. Although, if there's one thing our talk has wonderfully succeeded at, it's making me feel like a total arsehole and a hypocrite. And I am, considering my plans tonight. Sure, I can tell her, but what good would it do? I do intend to tell G before leaving tonight. He has to know, if he's going to be keeping an eye on them for me. One person is already enough, however. Hell, simply letting someone in on the plan makes me iffy. Broadening that circle and revealing too much would just cause another pointless concern. But someone has to be aware at least of where I'm heading off to, in case things don't pan out. Expect the worst, even if I've only intended to do a quick survey of the place. In my own words, risky. Isabella doesn't need to be burdened with the worry my entire scheme entails. I'd like to think that, yes, to some extent she understands, even if she doesn't entirely agree with me. The dilemma's clear in her. Otherwise her scowl wouldn't have a deeper set to it. Her lips wouldn't be pressed in a thin line where her hand would no longer be balled into fists. She would have pushed that argument. If she doesn't, and I know she has no lack of things to say, maybe it's because she's already heard the same thing from Rebecca. Maybe my words have made her come to her senses. Either way, it's best we simply leave it here for now. I've already said enough. I stand up as soon as footsteps shuffle from the next room, its cadence slow and hesitant. Shortly, Rebecca comes into view, clutching her hands firmly in front of her and sporting the same uncertainty in her face. She casts me a cursory look, then shifts a nervous one to Isabella, who studies her with an almost hopeful gleam in her eye. Their fights never did last long.
Belle, can we talk alone?
Her interruption could not come sooner, and I'm all the more glad for it. Whatever kind of friendship I share with the two, this remains something for only the two of them, much like my own with Zach. I'm the outsider. They don't need me here. It's all the reason I need. Muttering an excuse, I beat a hasty exit out of the main lounge and leave them to mend things on their own, before Isabella can say what she's been mulling over, before the last imploring gaze she directs my way forces me to change my mind. It's another lasting image that firmly etches itself in my memory, one that spurs the conscience, among other things. I just hope I won't regret what I've chosen for myself tonight. And with that, we should wrap this episode up here, but this next one is going to be crazy if we're going to go and break into the Wright's mansion. And we still haven't told them about Zach. I mean, we kind of told Isabella, I guess. But, not properly, you know. I don't know. We'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.